everybody. Welcome into 104.3 The Fans Tea Time, because we have to talk about Russell Wilson sitting on airplanes. Everyone needs to be doing high knees.
Hold on. I'll be right there. Just want to let you guys know I'm doing this and you're not.
Okay, if you all didn't hear, Russell Wilson told the media this morning in London that on his flight out there, he spent 4 hours doing high knees and working out in the aisle while his teammates slept. Wow, I can't even imagine. We're going to get into this, but welcome here with D-Mac and Will Peterson. You guys, if you were on an 8-hour, 9-hour flight, however long it is to go to London, and someone got up and started doing high knees in the middle of the night, what would be your first reaction, Will?
I would want to punch them. I mean, come on. We just suffered a brutal loss to the Jets. We're on this plane to London less than 24 hours later, and you're doing high knees. As I told D-Mac on Twitter 20 minutes ago, they were encouraged to sleep. The coaching staff made it abundantly clear, you need to sleep. And this guy felt the need to be in the aisleways, dodging flight attendants, dodging drink carts, to show, look how much harder I'm working than everyone else doing my high knees. Like, man, I've defended Russ time and time again, but this is just another instance of what are we doing?
By the way, if you want to do it because, I don't know, it's a long flight or something, I mean, I guess, okay, just keep it to yourself, man. First of all, the eye rolls from his teammates must have been out of control. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to say, oh, how did you spend your time on the flight? I watched some videos, watched some game film. I did stretch a little bit. What'd you do? Oh, nothing. A bunch of guys stretched. That's just what we all did. There's guys, there were a bunch of dudes just doing it. That's how you answer that question. That's it. If you need to. But to just say I was doing high knees while everybody else slept is just such a ridiculous. First of all, it's somewhat of a ridiculous thing to do, and second and third of all, or fourth of all, or whatever of all, it's a ridiculous thing to brag about. Nobody likes that person at work that wants to tell you what they're doing all the time, like somehow they're doing something you're not doing. Nobody likes to hear that. Nobody.
And not only just stretching, but for 4 hours. It's one thing to get up, maybe once an hour, like walk down the aisle because your legs, I'm sure, like these guys are all tall.
Dude, Russell Wilson is like the Progressive commercial about turning into your parents. It's just like he doesn't get it. He needs that guy from the commercial. No, we don't need to do that. No, it's okay. You don't have to tell anybody.
Telling the media too. When you guys ever make a joke and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so funny. Or you're like telling a story and you're like, this is going to be so funny. And then no one laughs and it's really awkward. And instead people are like, why would you even say that? That must be Russell Wilson's thing every single time he talks. He must be like, oh, people are going to praise me for this. Oh, they think I'm going to be really funny for this. And it just like turns on him so quickly.
No, Rachel, you're so right. He needs the guy from the Progressive commercial. He needs that guy. Like Wolverine blood, not a funny joke, okay? Nobody will understand it. It's not set up the right way, Russ. He needs that guy. He just doesn't get it. It's so darn frustrating to sit there. And first of all, by the way, just to work this out, the Broncos left at 3:00 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. You had literally, because you don't sleep apparently, from 6 a.m. in the morning till, say, 2:00 in the afternoon to stretch and do knee bends and do whatever the hell you wanted to do. You literally had all day to do all that. Will, you're right. They wanted the players to sleep on purpose. They didn't want them working out or stretching. They gave them all day. They traveled in sweatpants and a sweatshirt. You could have done whatever you needed to do before that flight. The flight was meant to just rest your mind and your body. That's it. And for him to get up there and start doing that is like, I don't know, man. There's some psychological weirdness with this dude that I just don't understand. Can
you guys imagine Jerry Judy's got his little blindfold thing on and he's snoozing out with his little blindfold and all of a sudden he gets popped with a Russell high knee coming down the aisle. What do you think Jerry Jeudy's reaction is to that?
Dude, I had somebody reach out to me on Twitter, goes, oh, you've apparently never been on an international flight. And I'm like, oh, wait, is there a spa? I mean, is it so big that people are, can you imagine an entire flight of people doing workouts in the middle of an international flight? Oh, tell me about these international flights that I clearly don't understand. I mean, can you imagine? We're now flying over the Atlantic Ocean, and what, the whole plane gets up and starts doing stretches? I mean, it's so funny. I get walking around. I get going to the bathroom. I've done that even on shorter flights. It's fine. I get stretching your legs, that sort of thing. But doing calisthenics workouts and knee bends or whatever, I mean, that is right up there with sockless sandals clipping your toenails.
Oh, that goes into a perfect thing. Twitter is obviously having a day with Russell Wilson. Lots of people are just kind of, not being exactly super kind when it came to him. So what's better? Russell Wilson doing high knees by you, the guy with no socks or no shoes on, the guy who brings McDonald's on the plane, the seat kicker, or the guy who claps when the plane lands. Which one is worse, to be honest?
Oh my God, those are great. I hate all of those. I hate all of those. We should go through each one. What's the first one there? The toe guy?
Let's start with the Russell Wilson definitely claps every time the plane lands. I'm not going to lie.
Right. Clapping when the plane lands is one of the most idiotic things in the world.
That is one of the worst things on earth. The only time you can clap when the plane lands is if they had dropped your oxygen mask and they give you your life jacket and they go, we might be going down. If you get down safely, then you can clap.
Yeah.
If it's a routine flight from here to Dulles, you can't start clapping.
Hey, if I have to land the plane, everybody should there should be a standing ovation. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Can you imagine if we just got off coffee time? Tea time. I'm confusing it. We got off tea time and there were like 15 people clapping for us for doing this. I mean, this is literally our job. What do you think? This is his first flight? So there's that. What's the other one? The McDonald's bag?
The McDonald's. Someone who brings McDonald's on the plane.
When you bring odor, now I've been a little bit guilty of this. I've definitely brought food on the plane. But you got to be careful about what kind of food you bring. Like if you bring something with a heavy onion smell or something else like that, then you're just a turd. I don't know how else to put it. So yeah,
it's like
I guess I work for bringing food on a plane, but
yes,
like anyone who heats up like leftover seafood at work in a communal microwave. Like what are we doing here? Yes.
You're the worst.
All right, what's next? What's after that?
The seat kicker, which is mostly kids.
God.
But if you're a parent and you can't control your kid from kicking the seat in front of you, I automatically hate you.
Hey, how about the guy that wants to own the armrest? It is the constant touch. How about the constant toucher guy? I had that on my last flight. It was just everything with his elbow to my rib cage. Just it was 4 hours of him constantly touching me.
So D-Mac, would you rather have that, or would you rather have Russell Wilson doing high knees by you at?
You know what? I just would think the person doing the high knees is an idiot. Unless he's really touching me as he's doing the high knees. The whole thing is preposterous. And again, it's not even if he did these silly things on the flight where he had plenty of time during the day to get it out of his system. It's the fact that he feels the need to talk about it, to share it. I've got Wolverine blood. By the way, there's another thing today. So this is an amazing coincidence. Leaving the Broncos locker room, I took a picture of the slogans when they leave the locker room. And it's all about, we are the storm. And the Warrior says, I am the storm or something. There is literally, if Jake can find it and I posted it, we are the storm. That's what the Broncos see when they leave the locker room. Russell Wilson today, as Andrew Mason pointed out, said that the storm will pass. And when the storm passes, we'll be okay. So literally what he said, if you are identifying yourself as the storm, then the storm will pass. You are literally contradicting your own messaging in your own locker room that the coaches put there. And listen, I don't know about stupid cliches and all that sort of bumper sticker mentality, but you could have said, we are the storm. despite the troubles we're going through, we are the storm, and the storm will, whatever. Jared Bednar did say that in the playoffs. He more or less said, we are the danger, to quote Walt White from Breaking Bad. We are the dangerous ones. We're not changing our style to fit somebody else. We're the danger.
Well,
and Jared Bednar said that. And his team embraced it. To say that the storm will pass, but the coaches say, we are the storm, I mean, what the hell does that say?
D-Mac, he's tired. He didn't sleep on the plane, okay? He's not thinking clearly.
I'm going to bring this up real quick, and I want you guys' serious answers. Serious only. Russell Wilson owns a super nice jumbo jet.
Right.
This private plane that we know he went all over the world in. Should Russ have campaigned to take his own jet to London with the premise being, I want to do my injury rehab, and I've got this big, expansive plane for just me and a pilot and maybe Sierra, and it might be better if I go on my own?
No, that would have been that.
Yeah.
But under the, I can't think of anything worse. But how about this? That's where that idea would sort of fit in. No, I mean,
I think you're just separating yourself further from your team.
But he needed to do high knees, guys, and he would have had the space. He wouldn't have been kicking Jerry Jeudy while he's got the face mask on. What?
Who do we think he was sitting next to?
Oh my God!
Whole plane, because he was sitting next to everyone. He made it all about Russ. He was doing laps.
Who knows?
I just wonder when he got up if he looked over to Brett Rippon and was like, "Just to let you know, I'm going to do some high knees. I'm going to work out real quick." And Brett was probably like,
"Oh my God, dude! I mean, you guys understand what I'm saying? That he had literally hours and hours. Oh, here we go. Right here's what it looks like leaving the Broncos locker room. You cannot withstand the storm. I am the storm. We are the storm." And literally, Russell Wilson said today, the storm will pass. I mean, it's comical, right? This is what you can't make up. This is the crap that you can't make up. He literally today, unknowingly, of course, contradicted the slogan in their own locker room. The funny part of this is they literally go in and out of that door for every single game. Like that, it could not be in a more prominent spot in terms of, the game day sort of stuff. So the storm will pass, but we are the storm. So I guess when we pass, how do you make any sense of it? You got caught with contradicting cliches. And this is the problem with Russ. We need him just to be a regular person, to connect with his teammates, to connect with the coaches, to be on the same page. And why it matters is if we constantly see disconnection, guys, how do we know things are happening efficiently on the field? Why are we to think that you can disconnect everywhere else, but somehow be on the same page with what needs to happen on the field? No. The more consistent thought is if you're disconnecting everywhere. Mr.
Unlimited. You got to be unlimited. You got to have.
I can't with this, man. Clint makes a great point, though, in the comments. He said, just think if this team didn't suck, we wouldn't be caring. And that's, to be honest, the truth. If this team was winning, we would be like, oh, good for Russ to do this. Good for him to
I know. I would know. By the way, I've heard that before. I would still be laughing at this stuff. This stuff would still be foolish. That's the plane they were on? Is that it?
No, that's his Alaska Airline plane. Him throwing. Speaking of which, he's actually been in a commercial too, where he was a flight attendant. So shall we take a listen to see maybe if he was handing out water to his teammates too during that time?
Sure.
Flight Training 101 with Chief Football Officer Russell Wilson.
Place the vest over your head,
attach the clasp,
and adjust the strap
on the front of the vest.
I need a timeout. How do I?
Right after takeoff, the first thing we do is offer guests a drink of water.
Who needs some water? There you go, my dear. That's for you. Anybody else?
Hit me, I'm open.
Oh, I like open wide receivers. There you go. Hope I don't miss. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, it's my first time.
Dream big, fly high. Thanks for flying Alaska.
Yeah, it's just not funny.
I have so many questions for his marketing team who was like, this is a great idea that we should have the open wide receiver, I hope I don't miss conversation. It's terrible.
Because he did that to KJ Hamler and cost the Broncos a game. So yeah, I'm with D-Mac. I'm not laughing If he had just hit KJ Hamler, this whole season may have a different vibe, right?
You know what? It's ironic because perhaps it's the delivery of his passes and the delivery of lines. I bet you anything, if Peyton Manning was doing that same exact commercial with those same exact lines, it would come off funny. There's that, of course. But, I don't know what to say here. Listen, just win, figure it out, and I guess we'll ease up a little bit. But I'm trying to be even a little bit more serious about all we're hearing is about connecting and how do we know we're on the same page and how do we get this thing turned around? And is it Hackett? Is it Wilson? Is it a dip or a decline? Is it the system? The guy who's going to suffer the most for this, by the way, is going to be Nathaniel Hackett. We literally have George Karl, a Hall of Fame coach, out of nowhere, drop bombs that Hackett should be fired yesterday on Twitter. That's not us muggles doing it. That's a guy who's in the Hall of Fame for being a coach. That's a guy who's been in high pressure situations. That's a guy who knows. That's a guy who's had troublesome, but, Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson, Sean Kemp, Gary Payne. That's a guy who's had to coach at the highest level with superstars. I'll take George Karl's word on it. Don't trust me.
And Nathaniel Hackett spoke to the media today and got asked about if he felt like any outside pressure. And I thought about clipping it, but to be honest, it was a load of BS saying, no, like there's always pressure just to win games. Like it's almost like a Russell Wilson thing. Like you can't go out there and you can't say, oh yeah, like I know my job's kind of on the line, but the response is it's just not good. Like everyone knows your job is pretty much on the line.
And Rachel, I wrote that exact article at denverfan.com this morning, and that's what I concluded with was, what's he supposed to say? Is he supposed to say and tell Troy Rank, I know if I lose on Sunday, I'm getting fired? No, that's not what he's going to say, right? He's going to say, oh, I don't hear the outside pressure. I put internal pressure on myself because I want to win. But it does open this larger conversation that Troy did ask him about it today, guys, because there is just more and more of this ramp up as this week goes on, that if they lose on Sunday, there's a very real chance he's getting fired. And that is insane. No first-year coach gets fired in the NFL. The only guy who did last year was Urban Meyer because he was dancing at a bar with co-eds and he wasn't getting on the plane. Nathaniel Hackett wouldn't get fired for anything like that. No one is saying Nathaniel Hackett's a bad dude. They're just saying he's an incompetent football coach. So to pull the plug after 8 games, which it feels like it's trending toward that direction, would be almost unprecedented in NFL history, again, if they lose on Sunday.
Listen, if I'm the head coach, you know what I do? I pull Russell Wilson in and I go, son, and maybe I do call him son. Maybe I am his father figure. And I say, you got to look at this. Maybe I don't call him son. That's too condescending. I won't call him son. I apologize for that. You bring him in. You treat him like a man. And you say, Russell, you have to see what this looks like, okay? Bring him in and have that conversation. But you have to have a significant amount of respect going both ways to do that. There is a crazy relationship with an effective coach where he does have that parental father sort of respect while also being able to, bond with them to a certain degree. But I would say the head coach needs to be the more fatherly figure, and the assistant coaches can be more of the, brotherly or, that sort of relationship. And right now, Hackett just wants to be his best buddy, and you just can't do it. And that's why George Karl, in my opinion, wrote about him not connecting with Russell Wilson. Okay. You're not connecting because you haven't built the right relationship in the first place. And sadly, guys, that's not something you can fix. That's something you got to move on from.
I have a question though. Seems like nobody can connect with Russell Wilson. So is it harsh to blame your head coach because absolutely nobody can connect with him?
It's very difficult.
Is it to blame Russell Wilson?
It's a good question, Rachel. Listen, I don't know the magic answer. They certainly were dealing with it in Seattle forever. But I'll tell you what doesn't help. What doesn't help is allowing his own people in the same facility with yours. And if everything is working, fine. Who cares? Let me tell you, when I first started covering the NFL in the mid-'90s with the Buffalo Bills, they were a veteran team And Marv Levy treated them as such, and he was a good, father figure, adult type of coach. And they really didn't need anybody else in the building with them because they were accountable to each other. Jim Kelly held everybody else accountable. And but Jim was, let me tell you this, guys, he was surrounded by family. Jim lived with his brother Dan and this other guy, Tommy Good, who was a real life turtle like Entourage. Like Tommy would get the laundry and do all this sort of stuff. So Jim actually did have the same kind of support system that Russell Wilson had as well. He had a lot of family around and a lot of people that worked with Jim. He had his own businesses in town. He had his own TV show. He had his own restaurant. He had all the same stuff. He was his own marketing guy, all that. But when it came to the facility, Jim left it alone. He did. And Jim became a resource for everybody else. Like Jim would always have the guys over to his house after games. Jim would hang out in the parking lot with just the fans and other people. And Jim was a bigger celebrity in Buffalo than Russell Wilson here is in Denver. Okay. So don't talk to me about you're too famous, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing. How do we get through to Russell Wilson on that stuff, guys? I actually don't know. I don't know if you guys have an answer, but I think if they could have figured it out in Seattle, they would have done it.
Yeah, and the thing I'll add to that, you make a good point. I can't sit here and pretend to have the answer. But let's be clear. While I love and respect George, I don't think Nathaniel Hackett will be getting fired on Monday or could be getting fired on Monday because he can't connect with Russell Wilson. I think he'll be getting fired because his offense stinks. Well, it's 32nd in the NFL in points. In points per game, it's an entire point less than the 31st ranked Pittsburgh Steelers. It's less than the Rams and the Texans in total points, who, by the way, have had their byes. They've only played 6 games. The Broncos have played 7 and have still only scored 100 points. So while the can't connect with Russell Wilson is a factor, and T-Mac, I agree, we have to solve that, Hackett would be getting got on Monday because his offense, as Chad Brown said yesterday, is the worst offense he's ever watched in his lifetime.
Yeah, and then we get into kind of semantics. Is the reason the offense is so poor because you can't connect with the quarterback and you guys can't get on the same page? But whatever. Well, at the end of the day, we're all saying the same thing, aren't we? Yeah. There's no solving this problem, and there's no solving this problem under the same set of circumstances, like Justin Simmons pointed out, by the way. So you have to change the circumstances, and that means you got to get rid of Nathaniel Hackett. And when you want to do that, I don't know. I would hope the Greg Penner, Walton ownership, Melody, Hobson, Condi, Rice, Lewis Hamilton ownership group, there's a lot of letters there. I would just hope that they would say, we've got a problem. Lewis Hamilton, if the race car is just not working, you've got to build a new race car. You don't just try to win with the same race car, right? And if the chief engineer is making the same mistake over and over and over again, you simply get rid of the chief engineer. It doesn't matter if he was hired 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it certainly doesn't matter if you're in a $1 billion sport to pay him off a few $1 million. That's the cost of doing business if you're serious about doing business. So this isn't really that hard to explain to the Walton, Penner, Condi, Melody, Hobson, Rice, Lewis, Hamilton ownership group.
We got that. Thanks to Denver 7, Russ did apparently talk about his flight routines. We're going to go ahead and take a listen. I'm curious.
I don't really get jet lag too often. I don't really, I've traveled enough to get, kind of get my system down. But yeah, for me, I was on the plane the first 2 hours. I was, probably, 8 hours flight here? That's the first 2 hours I was watching the film, watching all the cut-ups and everything else. And then for the next 4 hours, I was doing treatment on the plane. I was walking up and down the aisles. Everybody was knocked out. I was doing high knees and working on my legs and everything else, make sure I'm ready to rock. So that was good. And then the last 2 hours, the last hour of that, I fell asleep for 1 hour, and then I watched the film the rest. So I felt good to go once we got back. And then we had
Oh, gosh. It just makes you cringe. It makes you cringe. But I have one last thing to do, and then I want to move on because I feel like we could talk about this for hours. When you're healing your muscles, are you told to rest your muscles, not to overwork your muscles? But that's a whole different thing. I do want to ask both of you, though, as we move on to the Denver Nuggets. MPJ was on the injury report last night, did not play. Is it time to panic with MPJ that we are barely starting off this season and he is already on the injury list?
Well, yeah, I mean, he hasn't not played yet because the game is tonight. So the injury report came out yesterday for tonight's game. against the Lakers. But as you see there, questionable because of lumbar spine injury management.
Yeah.
But let's be clear about something here. He played a ton in the preseason. He's played a ton of minutes. We didn't hear anything about the injury management, and you can't find the video. But he and Yusuf Nurkic had an ugly sort of collision in the Blazers game where everyone who watched the game, you can go look through on Twitter, said afterwards that MPJ looked like the MPJ who played 9 games last year. Like it was night and day. He looked smooth. He looked fluid. And then he collides with Nurkic, and all of a sudden he's moving all, gingerly and staggered and this and that. No one really addresses it post game. And then he magically is on the injury report for load management. Mm-hmm. Guys, I don't want to have my tinfoil hat on too much, but you all know exactly what's going on here. He tweaked something against the Blazers. We need to keep our fingers crossed that it's not too serious, because if he doesn't play tonight, they're going to spin it as load management when it could definitely be something more significant than that.
They played 3 games in 4 nights to open up the season, which was tough. And then they had a little time off, and you go to Portland. That's not a hard trip. And then you come and you rest. And this is a game with the Lakers he should be dying to play in. Are you kidding me? Lakers are one of the worst teams in basketball. It is not too much to expect a player to play 5 games in 8 days. That's the NBA schedule. It just is. So I'm bummed about this. I think it probably is indicative of something else. I hope not. I hope not, because we saw a lot of really cool moments with Michael Porter Jr. already, but it's got me incredibly nervous. This is a game that, load management. It's not even a back-to-back, guys.
Right.
It's not an East Coast trip. It's Portland and back. That's a nothing flight for the Nuggets of all the things that they do. He probably wouldn't even have to do deep knee bends. The flight is so short. So I'm concerned. I'm definitely concerned.
Well, and D-Mac, like you said, it's the Lakers. It's ESPN. It's the primetime game.
Yeah.
We know Michael Porter Jr. wants to play on the biggest of stages. This isn't a Tuesday night in Charlotte on altitude, right? Like, this is a big game for the Nuggets.
Yeah.
And again, for them to spin it to us as load management, no, something happened against Portland. And Michael Malone will be asked about it pregame tonight. And let's hope we get a straight up answer about it.
Fingers crossed. Okay, I'm glad we got both of those. But a lot of people in the comments are wondering what we think of the Broncos' new unis for this Sunday. I'm not really sure how I feel about the stripe down the pants. So they're going with the white top, the blue bottoms. What do you both think? Are you a fan of the mixing and matching, or do you just stay one classic color, Will?
No, I think it's pretty brutal. I don't have the best fashion sense in the world, but I don't think it matches. Am I wrong, Rachel? You may know better than I would. Like, to me, it just looks like a little kid picked out a shirt and a pants from his closet to go to school. And the mom's like, that doesn't match, but I'm the cool mom, so you can wear whatever you want. Like, who thought this through? I saw some conspiracy theories that maybe they left one half of the uniform in Denver, so this is the combo they came up with.
Well, Damani Leach actually spoke on that. Damani Leach said it was the captains of the team that came up with it, that it was a decision based on the team leaders. Listen, again, with the fashion sense, Will, I'm right there with you. You should not take my advice for anything with fashion whatsoever. It's just that when I look at it, I'm just like, that's not right. That's my initial reaction. But again, I don't care. I'm not a uniform guy. I just haven't found one uniform type of person that likes it. I haven't. Yeah. So to me, I don't really care. Frankly, at this point, guys, though, you know what? At this point, isn't there something about let's have a little fun with ourselves and change things up dramatically? So listen, it's not working any other way. You're literally the worst team in the last 11 games that you played in the entire NFL at 2-9. Whatever. Wear mismatched socks. Wear stripes with horizontal and vertical. I don't know. Look like Andrew Mason. Just do something.
Maybe they want people to talk more about the uniforms and how bad they look than how bad the offense could possibly look come Sunday.
Anything to shake things up and have a little bonding or have a little fun. I think the worst look is the blue on blue, by the way, because you just look like a big blueberry. And I can't imagine like fat guys wearing blue on blue. It must be the worst nightmare in the world to have to do that.
You look like
possibly being passed by the orange on orange, by the way.
I'm thinking of the Willy Wonka girl. Remember the Willy Wonka girl who eats the blueberry?
Exactly.
And, you know,
What
they
is
look
her
like
name?
Violet Beauregard. Yeah.
Sally.
Yes.
What is it?
Violet.
Yep. Violet. I haven't watched that movie in a
She
long time.
exploded, didn't she?
Yeah.
Wasn't she? She just
What's
do some high knees,
Giant
Violet.
blueberry. That's what you're saying. That, you know, I won't name names because I won't pick on the Broncos, but that's what you're saying. Some of their bigger gentlemen look like.
Well,
Violet
maybe
and Willy
they need
Wonka.
to do some high knees, baby. You know, get that time in. I was walking up and down the aisle for 4 hours. Oh my God.
I can't.
No, that wouldn't be annoying. No, nobody.
Here comes the airplane.
That's it. 4 hours of walking up and down the aisle.
Who does that?
Nobody.
Who does that?
Rachel, nobody does that. Listen, I'll tell you this. If you want to squeeze off a few push-ups and walk out up and down the aisle every now and then, hey, listen, okay, you want to get the blood going a little bit. You know, maybe even for rehab purposes, you do have to keep that. That could be true. You know, you have to have the blood circulating. You can't just sit still. I'm fine with that. Again, I'll just go back to just shut up. Just shut up about it. I spent some time stretching, walking up and down, looking at film. I don't know. I passed the time. That's how you answer that silly question. What'd you do on the plane? By the way, not a bad question. What'd you do on the plane? You could get some interesting answers, as they clearly did. You know, and by the way, Troy Rank asking Hackett about, you know, basically being fired. That's what I call a necessary icky question. And they suck to ask. I'll tell you that, because you don't root against him. He's not a bad guy. But again, it's one of those, you never know what he's going to say, so you got to ask the question. So it is a good question. It just sucks to have to ask it. That's all.
Guys, it was 45 days ago, 45, that we woke up on September 12th, Broncos Seahawks Monday Night Football. If I had told you that just 45 days later, we'd all be sick of Russell Wilson and Troy Rank would be asking Nathaniel Hackett with a straight face, essentially, are you going to get fired? You would have told me we live in some crazy alternate reality.
You're right.
I can't remember a season with higher expectations that has crashed and burned quicker than this Broncos one, that was 45 days ago. It's insane how quickly this has gone off the rails.
Crazy.
It feels like it's been a year. Like, it feels like we've been talking about this for a year, which is insane because, like you said, it's only 45 days. And truthfully, well, we were having a meeting yesterday. I can't even believe that we are having these conversations. We're, you know, figuring out what is the game plan if Nathaniel Hackett does get fired. Like, the fact that these things are even in consideration and are a topic of conversation absolutely blows my mind.
I'm with you. I feel like you should add a 0 to that 45. I feel like it's been 450 days. Like it's crazy to me that we had such high hopes and expectations literally a month and a half ago. Like this shouldn't happen to sports fans in a month and a half, but it's what's happened to all of Broncos country in a very short period of time.
Let me tell you what should happen that's not going to happen. Bradley Chubb should be traded for Sean Payton and whatever the other details are, and Sean Payton should be the coach of this team next week. That should happen, but it won't happen. What likely will happen is that Bradley Chubb will get traded for, whatever, and Butch Berry and Tyrone Wheatley will be fired. The running back coach and the offensive line coach will be fired. There have to be some sort of sacrificial lambs in this whole process. That's very minor. It's not necessarily significant, but those moves, Chubb being traded, and maybe Judy too, okay? And listen, of course, if you could get a box of Pop Rocks, you could get Albert O. And they'll just get rid of those minor pieces as well if they can. So you will have change this week, inevitably. You have to. But at the end of the day, I think the Greg Penner group will be too weak-minded to actually make the bold change necessary because they are inexperienced and they, in terms of this business, really don't understand what it all means. Sorry, I kill you with truth.
Oh, man. Okay, well, you guys, it's time to go inside the game with our very own Mark Schlereth. So let's do it as we ask him about this Broncos game come Sunday in London. Inside the Game, presented by Bet Rivers Sportsbook. All right, hold on one second, everybody. Hold on. There we go. Mark, hello. How are you?
I'm good, Rachel. How are you?
Good. Okay, so I don't really want to talk too much about the Broncos, even though we will get into it. So let's first start. What game are you covering this week?
I have got Arizona at Minnesota this weekend.
Ooh, that's a good game. Very nice. That should be
Yeah.
fun. All right. Well, we got a few comments, so we'll get into those before we get into our points here. But is the Denver media being too harsh on Russ?
No. I mean, that's what you sign up for, right? I mean, you're supposed to come in here. You're supposed to play at a level that he has not played at thus far, and so no, that's you're a big boy, and you know you're part of that public scrutiny, and no, he's got to play better. So no, are we being too harsh on Russ? No, absolutely not.
Okay, I like that answer because, yeah, we've gotten a few comments that apparently we've been a little too harsh on him this morning. What did you think of him doing high knees on the airplane?
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's Russ. Like, he's just different. And you know, good for him trying to get himself right to be able to play. But I'm more about what's it going to take for you to play well, and it's not high knees. It's being under center. It's about being more committed to running the football. It's about eliminating half the field and getting out on the boot keep game and the waggle game and creating easy throws for yourself and for your offense. And and those are the things to me, getting out of shotgun in the red zone, and those are the things that are more imperative than high knees in the airplane. So but whatever. I mean, I just keep going back to the way I was brought up in this league, and one of the things we said in my days here in Denver: get good or get gone. I'm with you, win or tie. You got to perform. You've got to play better than you've played. You've got to lead your football team. And so far, you have been horrible, and that's being kind.
No,
you've been horrible.
Is this the worst offense you've ever seen?
It's about as bad. Yes, it's about as bad as I've ever seen it, and especially when you had expectations. Like, I didn't have a lot of expectations under Drew Lock. I didn't have a lot of expectations under Case Keenum. I didn't have a lot of expectations, or as many expectations with Joe Flacco. I didn't have those expectations. I had expectations, and it's been as bad as I've seen it. And the fact that you keep doing the same thing and expect different results is ridiculous to me. Yeah, I did the Giants last weekend, and really interesting to watch Brian Daboll, who came in as a pretty glorified play caller and completely walked away before anybody made him walk away. He said, "I'm not calling plays. I'm bringing in an offensive coordinator to call plays because I believe that my attention needs to be spread out and focused on the entirety of the football team. So when it comes to defense or when it comes to special teams, I endorse those checks. They've got my name written on them. So I have to be ready to make sure that I'm in charge of all that stuff, that I'm in sync with my defensive coordinator." The other thing is what are we philosophy-wise? I put a graphic up last weekend in the game where coming from Buffalo, Brian Daboll as a play caller, I think threw it about 65% of the time. With Josh Allen, they were in four wides the majority of the time, or three wides or four wides nickel. Then you go to the Giants, they're in 2 and 3 tight ends the majority of the time. They're running it, almost 55, 60% of the time. Like, they've completely flipped their defense from spread to condensed formations. Because why? Because that's what our personnel is best at. That's what we have. So it's not about my system. Mm-hmm. It's about taking what we have and making it work. In the New York media, it was incredible. Every article you read in the New York media was about Brian Daboll's ability to adjust at halftime. There's nobody making better adjustments than Brian Daboll. You know what his adjustment is? Straight from the horse's mouth. Mm-hmm. My adjustment is stay true to my identity. My adjustment is don't do anything. Stay the course. Give it to 26. That's never the wrong answer. That's Saquon Barkley. Yeah. And you walk into that game that I called last week against Jacksonville, who the Broncos are going to play, and Jacksonville is stout. They can defend the run. Saquon Barkley, I believe, in the first quarter had 2 carries for -1 yard. At halftime, he had about 15 yards rushing. He ended the game with close to, I think, 120 yards rushing. Because they stayed the course, they kept giving it to him. They wore down that defense, and eventually those 0-yard gains, those 1-yard gains, those minus 1-yard gains, or losses were 4, 6, 8, 12, 5, 7, 2. That's the way it worked, and that's the way the run game works. There's a lot of coaches who talk about I want to be good at running the ball until they're not good for a quarter, and then they say, "Oh, screw it, we can't run the ball. I'd rather throw it anyway." That's not how Brian Daboll's operating right now, and he's giving his team a chance with what you would call meager talent, average talent, especially outside, a bunch of guys you've never heard of, to be 6-1 right now.
Okay, well, speaking of running the ball, over under 10.5 carries for Melvin Gordon, because whatever they seem to be doing with Latavius Murray and Gordon, it's spiking a lot of interest for Broncos fans.
Yeah, I hope it's under. I'm going to go under just because that's my hope. I believe that he has earned the right to have 0 carries in the game. So giving him 10.5 carries or more, that to me is an affront to everything that you preach about being a good football team.
Why do you say that, Mark?
Because Melvin Gordon hasn't earned that right. And he's averaging 3 yards a carry. He puts the ball in the ground more than grass. It's not, you don't have the right to carry the football for our football team. And, and you're going to pout and cry that you don't know why you got benched. I got a pretty good idea why you got benched, because you suck and you haven't been good. So, that's the reality of the situation. Now, you can hate me if you want, but that's just the reality of the situation. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why you didn't get to play in the second half against the Chargers, because you're not good. That's why.
Okay, I like the honesty. I'm over under 1.5 touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence come Sunday, because we know the Broncos defense has been the strong point for this team.
I'm going to go over, because I think Trevor will probably throw one, and I think he'll probably rush for one. And so there's your 14 points, and then unfortunately the Broncos, lose 12-14. So there you have it, based on their offense.
Okay, so you're taking – actually, let me change the question.
Can I be any more negative right now? No, I can't.
I appreciate the honesty, Mark. And so do people in the comments.
Right.
Is Nathaniel Hackett getting fired on Monday morning?
I don't think so. It depends on what Sunday looks like. If Sunday looks more the same, then there's a good chance that's going to be the last game he coaches. I promise you one thing. If I'm Nathaniel, and I like Nathaniel Hackett, I really do. If I'm him, I'm going down swinging. I am not going to continue to let I'm going to continue to let this offense flounder and let it be Russell's offense. We're going to do what I want to do, or you don't get to play. And so if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down. If I'm going to get fired, I'm getting fired. At least, shooting my shot, so to speak.
Okay, Mark, appreciate you going inside the game with us.
You got it, Rachel. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Safe travels. All right, Mark Schlereth going inside the game, presented by Bet River Sportsbook. We're bringing in D-Mac now. D-Mac, we need to first of all ask you about your challenge for the day. Get on the light rail or bus or some sort of mode of transportation with others and get in some high knees and stretching. Send along the video. I'm sure it will look totally normal. If you get any, I would love to share them here on Coffee Break tomorrow, because I would be very interesting. But I think you need to do it.
Me?
I think you need to.
Oh my God.
Our very own D-Mac, the very top radio host in the state of Colorado, in the nation, went out there and did it. I think we've got a great show of laughters coming.
Listen, I'm not against doing it, but I still can't even find Pop Rocks. So, it's my ability to put myself in a variety of situations. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to the Nuggets Lakers tonight, so I can hop on the light rail at some point. I'll tell you that if I can figure that out and get on the light rail, and I got nothing against the light rail at all, I'll throw it down for you. Schedule-wise, that's the best that I can do. I'm not hopping on a flight today, so that would be hysterical, really, if somebody's flying somewhere today. So I'm not against it, Rachel, and I will see if I can find myself in that particular situation, and we'll sort of go from there. But I think our very own Jake Shapiro could be up for this particular challenge.
Oh, Jake getting the challenge. Okay, we'll see if he's got any remarks. But I do also want to talk to you about the Avalanche. I wanted to get to this at the beginning of the show, but then Russell Wilson had to go.
Yeah, great game for them. Great game for them. Yeah.
Let's listen and watch these highlights real quick from last night because, oh my goodness, you guys, it was so much fun. It went into a shootout. Hit it. Let's play.
Rodriguez moves in on the forehand to the backhand, back to the forehand to tuck it past Shesterkin. On Georgiev to the forehand, save made by Georgiev, and he celebrates a win against his old team here at the Garden.
Love it. Hey, here we go. Georgiev had a game, man. Yeah. Georgiev had a great game in a high-pressure situation. He came through for his team, his new team, against his old team. Don't tell me there wasn't a little emotion going with that. Mm-hmm. And I think he probably has a fine relationship with Shesterkin. But still, you always want to prove in a competitive situation how you stack up. I just thought last night was, and kind of an off game for Nathan McKinnon. Not a great game for Mac, but you're able to overcome that. And you got a really high quality W right there. So proud of the Avs for that effort last night. Really, really great way to get 2 points. Loved it.
Oh, I agree. And it was so much fun to watch. And
my
whole Twitter timeline was going crazy. I love a shootout. I honestly wish they would do shootouts in the playoffs because the intensity around them is so much fun. And you're just like, oh, I'm ready to go. So I loved watching it. Nathan McKinnon, though, it has been interesting that he struggled and we found him more in the box than I feel like we've ever seen before.
Well, when you get, when you get guys that, you get behind and you get in a bad position, sometimes you got to, do things, and he got whistled for a bad penalty. However, you could make the argument he saved the goal as well, even though he took time in the box. They survived that moment. Good for them. Their power play is absolutely ruthless. They didn't get a lot of opportunity on that yesterday, but they did cash on one of them. Found the Chushkin. I told you so. Is just having this out of body experience year already so far. So it's good. It's really good. And they'll play the Devils, and eventually they'll get off to Finland. And you just need. By the way, Rachel, the Avs had a lot of moments like they had last night in the regular season last year, and it built up that leathery toughness, that callus that you need to overcome. And we are just a few days removed from one of your most abysmal performances in the past 2 years against the Kraken. So to see the team actually bounce back this well, get a moment like that from Georgiev, I mean, absolutely fantastic.
I agree. Hopefully the Nuggets can do that tonight as they take on the Lakers.
Well, but hold on, Rachel. You got to smoke the Lakers, okay?
Yeah, I agree.
You can't. This is not just to survive and barely win, or what. It certainly can't lose. All right, and I get the Lakers are bound to win eventually, but this isn't. You may face the Rangers in the Stanley Cup final, Rachel. That's how good the Rangers are. Okay,
that's what I wanted last year.
Well, yeah. I mean, I get it. The Lakers aren't that team, Rachel. I mean, and by the way, on opening night, the Avalanche deposed of the Blackhawks, who are a poor team. They are the Lakers of the NHL, and they just, they took care of them. There's no big thought. They just, 5-2. They just took care of them. That's what needs to happen tonight, in my opinion, with the Lakers game. Anything less than that would be really disappointing.
No, I agree. Lakers, Nuggets tonight, Ball Arena. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Myself, DMAC. We've also got a friend from the Jaguars that will be joining us, so make sure you come hang out. DMAC's going to do his high knees, get that
I'm
work.
Better than you.
Thanks,
I'm
everybody.
better than you.
For hanging out with us here on Tea Time. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
I'm better than you.
Bye.